It is Saturday, January 31st, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. Folks, my voice may sound a bit congested and nasally to you. That is because I have a cold. Luckily, I'm recording this from my home studio, and my guest is recording it separately over this newfangled innovation called the internet. So there's no risk of me spreading my contagion to any of you or him. He's a repeat guest. We've had him back on the show a couple times, and he's here again. It's great to have him. His name is Norm Di Pasquale. He's the NDP candidate of record in Spadina, Fort York. He's a local community advocate and activist, including on issues like the Ontario Place and the Ontario Science Centre. And it is a pleasure to have him back on the show. Norm, welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jake. I am here. I am cold free, and I'm excited to chat with you.
No, yeah, I mean, it's been a few months since we had you back on, but there's been a few developments in all of your related fields since then.
Mm,
Firstly, when it comes to the NDP, the federal NDP are pretty in the thick of their leadership race. They've
mm,
got five candidates, and I was wondering if we could talk a bit about each of them.
sure.
I know you've given your support to Avi Lewis, so I figured
Mm.
we could go about him first, and I would just ask you what made you want to back him?
Yeah, I feel Avi is the best person to lead the NDP right now. He is able to get people really excited about working on great policy together. He is quick on his feet. I have seen him hold, people like Doug Ford to account in like a live media interview, and getting God bless the Westons out of Ford, as well as holding John Chrétien to account on like a debate way back in the day on Much Music. Um, and he just has that energy that is giving me a spark of hope right now, which is what I kind of desperately need as a federal progressive person. So I just feel like he's the right person for this moment. And he's also got all the right notes on dealing with climate change, which I feel like some of his other kind of key competitors are lacking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much in terms of like sharp criticism of Avi, just because I also seem to like most of his views, and
Mhm,
if he was the leader of the NDP, like I would certainly be happy as a progressive in Canada. Like
mhm.
no, the one thing that stuck out to me, and it's not really a criticism, I just thought it was funny, is one of the endorsements he got was from Naomi Klein. And I thought this was funny when this was posted. I'm like, you mean his wife?
Imagine if that endorsement went another way.
No, yeah,
Uh-oh.
like I would hope she's endorsing it. It's
Well,
it.
I love Naomi Klein. I love No Logo. What a great book.
No, yeah, I feel like every millennial progressive has read No Logo, but like,
Absolutely.
or seen No Logo, but like, and again, that's not really a criticism. I just thought it was funny that like when they were putting up like endorsements on social media, they're
Mhm.
like endorsement his wife, but it doesn't like mention that they're married or anything. So,
It's
like,
a great family. I mean, his
oh
sister
yeah,
is one of the producers on Heated Rivalry. Like, wow,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of great
it's
thinkers in
definitely
there.
a power couple. Like the two of them have something good going on. But in terms of Avi's opponents, I know one of the other big ones that's come up is Rob Ashton. I know,
Mhm.
like currently he's president of the International Longshore Workers Union in Canada,
Yeah.
so he's pretty established in the labor movement, and I there are some things I like about him. There's a thing
Mhm.
really recently that I don't like about him, but I get your thoughts on him first.
Yeah, I appreciate how well he's able to talk plainly to people and explain concepts that, sometimes people might find pretty complex in a really easy and straightforward way.
It's a
I
different
think that's a
style
real
of
strength he
political
has.
communication, but it's effective.
Yeah, it's refreshing, actually. I really do like it. And obviously, the labor background, I mean, this is a party that is supposed to be driven by the needs of the working class. So talk about a representative from that working class. As he was announcing his leadership bid, there was definitely like a groundswell of excitement around Rob Ashton.
Yeah, and I mean, like, especially, like, one of the line he has that I like the most is division is the weapon of the boss. And it's
Yeah.
kind of how, like, he
Yes.
addresses, like, social issues without getting stuck in the trenches of defending for 10 minutes the rights of trans people. He's just like, they just want you to hate them so you don't hate the rich people exploiting you. Like, and
Well,
that's
that's
it.
right. And he's right to remind us that, there's the billionaire class and then there's the 99% of us on the other side of that. and you know,
Right. I
just falling
appreciate
for
that
their tricks
shift in
doesn't help the rest of
perspective.
us.
And it's
Yeah,
something that I think like progressive should be adopting at large because it's a quick and snappy way of like cutting to the core of it.
absolutely. I mean, that communication is refreshing. We need it. There's a lot of kind of airy sort of talk among the progressive circles, and it's nice to have somebody who cuts quick into the chase.
Oh yeah, the thing that kind of soured me on him recently, and I do feel it cut a lot of his momentum, is
Mm,
that like rhetorically he took a pretty strong like he's opposed to AI replacing workers stance, which I would hope the Labor Party would take that stance.
yes.
And then in his Reddit AMA, he responded to all the answers with text generated by an AI, by a large language model. And
Yeah.
for one, as someone who's worked in political comms, I think that's lazy and pathetic. Like, do you not have your own opinions that are worth
Yeah.
sharing with people? But two, like I think if your hypocrisy and, like, I'll say pretty plainly, bullshitting is getting exposed before the entry period to the contest is even over, you're
Yeah.
going to have a
Yeah.
problem.
You want to keep gaps to a real minimum during the leadership campaign. There really shouldn't be a couple of gaps if you're a candidate,
And it's
right?
I don't see how it's like a mistake. I mean like mistake isn't a word that I feel would be appropriate here. Like
Mm,
it represents
that's
a
against the values.
if he did it, I mean for one, I think when a politician is doing an AMA on Reddit
Mhm.
or that other kind, like I don't think people should just be typing answers on their behalf without running it by the candidate. Like I think
No.
as someone, not just as someone who's worked in this field, but also as someone who like has been a redditor for more than half my life, we find it disrespectful and inauthentic. Like we know when someone is not, they don't have to type the responses themselves, but we can tell when someone's work actually being asked by the person typing and then telling them what they think, so it can be, you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Reddit is not a very flowery place. All you have are words.
Yeah.
So your words are going to be disseminated, and people are going to be quick to call BS there.
Yeah, and like especially like it was in the Canada politics subreddit, so it's actually
Yeah.
like it's a pretty neutral, fair place. You're not getting like gotcha questions. Like
Yeah, and I
they're
find
real.
Reddit's generally pretty fair.
Yeah,
At least it's been my experience.
yeah. For all the people have decried Reddit as some cesspool, I would point them to Twitter.
Yeah. Oh no. Amen. Amen. Reddit Toronto is like a pretty nice, respectful place. I've
Yeah,
engaged there, and I've never had a bad interaction.
yeah. It's
You know,
like so yeah, and
you got to be sincere, and people will be sincere right back to you.
like I hope that won't like mark Rob Ashton's entire history on the New Democratic Party. But I do think it has harmed his momentum a bit. Like it, and I don't know. I won't be ranking anybody because I'm not an NDP member, but I do plan to put
Oh, and
out
you've missed the cutoff, Jake.
yeah, but like I do plan to like put out as I did for the Liberal Party. Here's how I
Mhm.
would rank them. I'm not doing that for the Conservatives because one, they're not doing a race, and two, I don't like them and I'd never vote for them.
Right, you're ranking worse or even worse.
Yeah, like like we'd have negative numbers.
Well said.
Yeah, but it's like Raw Ashton, like I'm probably ranking him lower than I would have otherwise.
Yeah, I don't like anybody who's kind of on the side of continuing working on oil pipelines, oil sands. I feel like we have to look past that as the leaders of a party. You have to think about Canada's future.
Yeah, and I
And yeah,
understand that'll cause a lot of problems for the Alberta NDP. I'm not
uh,
naive about that,
hmm
and I know
hmm
that's why there's sort of a policy break between them and the federal NDP.
yeah,
But also, I live in a world where climate change is making the temperatures hotter and hotter. I
uh-huh.
have two younger siblings. My older sister's closer to my age, but my two younger siblings are like 3 and a newborn, and I would like
Mhm.
them to grow up in a version of Canada where snow exists.
Yeah, exactly. Or where every summer isn't smoky. I
Yeah,
mean,
where all the
it feels like
animals
you're
haven't
camping every.
gone extinct, where there's still
Yeah,
bugs on the windshield. Like
right. Where we still have forests.
Like I'm very scared for the world they're growing up in. Like, and
Yeah,
I get that there are a lot of people who have their economic livelihood tied up in fossil fuels, but we've
yeah,
been
yeah.
warning them for decades now, and it's honestly not my problem anymore if they refuse to heed those warnings, not
And
to be
like
blunt.
I think Waterfront Toronto really set the standard here. I want my leaders to think out 10, 25, 50, 100 years in the future. Like that's what I expect of
Isn't it
leadership.
nice to have leaders who plant trees they know they won't sit under because their grandkids will? It's
There you
almost
go.
like that
Yeah.
was like a proverb or something.
I like that.
Uh, Moving on to the third of the five NDP candidates for leader, there's Tanil Johnson, who's from Wewakai First Nation. She's a social worker for over 14 years. She works, she's also been a city councilor in her hometown. So I would say she's probably a bit less known than people with the profile of, say, Avi Lewis, but I think she's got a lot of really good experience, and I wonder what you think about her.
I think that experience is valuable, like being like an elected representative, city council, coming from a First Nations community where probably having to fight for kind of everything that you're gonna earn out of that city council, and
Fighting for
she
the
has some
things
great.
you've already been promised through treaty, but that they then say, "Nuh, we don't actually have to do it."
Oh, exactly. Yeah, these promises aren't worth a whole lot from
Probably
the
a
Canadian
useful
government when it comes
voice
to
in
First
federal
Nations.
politics.
Sorry.
Probably should be a useful voice in federal
Yeah,
politics.
absolutely. Those are the kind of voices that we want to see up there, and she has some good policy ideas. I always love the idea of enhancing co-ops in Canada and like proportional representation. So there's some good ideas there in the platform.
Mm. And I do appreciate, like, I know she does have a lower profile,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure how far along she and Tony McQuail, who we'll talk about in a second, will get on the ballot, just
Yeah.
when we talk about like fundraising dollars and momentum. But I do genuinely hope that, I mean, she in 2025 she was the federal candidate for North Island Powell River, so like you, she's a candidate of record.
Nice.
Uh, and like I hope she runs again. I hope she wins
Yeah.
again. Like I mean, if she wins the leadership, that would be really cool. But also, if she found herself an NDP cabinet, that would also be really cool. Like I want to see her like be more prominent in the NDP. I think she's the kind
Yeah.
of voice that belongs there.
Yeah, she's raised her profile and like really earned a lot of respect from me, and I'm sure other NDP members too.
This is a thing I've talked about sometimes, like in regards to leadership races. It's sometimes even if you don't necessarily get to the end, you are raising your profile and accomplishing something in that regard. But no one ever really wants to talk about it publicly because, pretty fairly, it can be seen as insulting. Uh, none,
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I've seen similar campaigns on the liberal side of things. I've participated in one, so
Hmm.
I say nothing that I don't say about my own former candidates.
Yeah. Yeah, and
But
honestly, nobody likes to lose. I mean,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
raise profile, great, but
you
that's got to lead
you
somewhere.
play to win the game.
That's it.
Yeah. And we'll go next to Tony McQuail, who perhaps similar things could be said about as well. He's worked in the farming industry for a long time. He's run many times for the NDP. He's served as a school board trustee. He
Mhm.
worked for the Ontario Minister of Agriculture, Elmer Buchanan, during the Bob Ray years, I assume. I assume that was during the Bob Ray years.
Safe assumption.
If it was during conservative years, that would be very funny. But I'm very
Yep.
much assuming that's the Bob Ray years. Uh, and they yeah. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about him.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he feels a little bit like a bit like a green. He's got extensive experience, obviously. Starting in 70s and 80s here. I think he's got some great kind of ideas around things like climate change and how we care for the earth. And these are great things to kind of things like caring for our planet are things that
And
we
with the
should be raising.
languishing of the federal Green Party, I think there's certainly like a strong opportunity for the NDP to build up more
Yeah,
membership by appealing to at least the eco-socialist contingent of the Greens.
yeah,
The
absolutely,
Tories
and
on
I yeah.
bikes, not so much.
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. I mean, if we get the right candidate who cares and thinks really into the future when it comes to things like climate change and building a better, greener planet, I really do think we can attract Green members. And I've seen a lot of alignment. In previous debates, I found myself agreeing a lot with the Green candidate and saying, that and then I found the Green candidate agreeing a lot with me. So there's definitely a lot of alignment there, and I think we can find them a home.
And not to be like too dismissive to the federal Green Party, but their moment seems to have passed. Like it, and it, mainly because Elizabeth May wouldn't
Yes.
let go.
Yeah, like a relay, when you're passing the baton, you've got to make sure that handoff happens, and happens smoothly. Otherwise, the baton gets dropped and your team is out. So,
At a certain point, like if you're building a party, it has to be larger than yourself. It cannot be a cult of personality, and the co-leadership model for the Greens clearly didn't work because
no,
one of those co-leaders is gone after feeling that he had essentially no autonomy.
yeah, that's right, and seemed like a great candidate, Mr. Pinot. So that is a shame.
It is great. Like he should have been the future of that party, and
Yep.
somehow he's the past, and Elizabeth May is still the present. Like the, so yeah, I think Tony represents like an opportunity for a lot of Greens to move over to the NDP. Of course, that
Yeah.
requires a leader who is willing to make tough decisions in regard to the fossil fuel industry.
Yes, and those decisions have to be. We have to be on the right side of
Right.
those.
And,
Otherwise, I'm not sure there's a
yeah.
point for us.
I know, and yeah, and that's maybe one of the conflicts when you talk about how the traditional and core focus of the NDP is supposed to be labor. What happens
Mhm.
when a lot of unionized workers work in an industry that's kind of morally bad? Like, do we have to
Yeah,
support the union workers who make ammunition that's being sent to Israel?
I mean, you have to take a stand somewhere, and
Yeah,
we have to talk about a transition away from
right.
these things like oil and gas
I'm
over
not
to
saying we
clean
have to use
energy.
like the heaviest hand with every unionized worker, but I'm not going to pretend that I support unions 100% of the time. Like when
Yeah.
the transit operators union for subway cars in New
Mhm.
York City, they're pitching a fit because they want to reduce it from two people on a train to one
Mhm.
person on a train. Meanwhile, that's how the vast majority of systems around the world operate because they're automated enough to run that way. And I
Mhm.
told him if he ever went to Vancouver and saw the 80 kilometers of metro track without any human operator, he might have a stroke. Like, yeah,
You look at New York City and you're like, wow, now that is a big city. You think you're in a big city? You're not. New York
no,
is a big city.
yeah, and it's like, listen, of course I support union workers, but in that case, the computer can do the job not just cheaper and not just better, but they do it safer. Vancouver is one of the most safe records of any metro system in North America. And it turns out it's literally just because the computer can sense a track obstruction and stop quicker than a human can. We would like if even though
That
they
makes
don't have
sense.
screen doors, less people die on the tracks in Vancouver because the train can just sense it and stop faster.
Yeah, and maybe you can kind of repurpose those folks from, just kind of eyeing issues on the track to, just keeping an eye on the general goings on in the subway.
Right.
So
And like there are ways to create new careers, and of
for
course,
sure.
like no one wants to leave a career where they're well compensated and they've been trained to
Yeah.
do it for decades. I'm not I get this.
Mhm.
And it's very easy for me to say, "Oh, just radically change society at large." Yeah, but I guess our final NDP leadership candidate to discuss would be the one of the five that is actually elected as a member of parliament.
Mhm.
Her name is Heather McPherson. She
Yeah.
was elected to Edmonton Strathcona in 2019. And she apparently earned the highest vote percentage of any New Democrat in both 2021 and 2025, which I would say is pretty fair boasting material. Especially
Yeah.
because, like, I would say, like, if you can argue that you're not just a popular New Democrat,
Mhm.
but, like, you're more popular than other New Democrat MPs are in their ridings, I think that's pretty impressive. I wouldn't say it too much to the other New Democrats who share your caucus with you because it might sting a little, but like,
Yeah.
I'm not enough. Like that's pretty fair qualification by itself. There's something to be said for having a leader who would have a seat, and I don't necessarily know that Carney is going to be so quick about letting an NDP leader hop into a seat as he was with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, I think you raised a very good point there. And Heather, even when the NDP fell into a trough, was reelected, resoundingly, and that speaks volumes. And it speaks to
Right,
how
like she's a
effective an MP
rock
she's
that
been.
can be relied on.
Yeah, and why does she get that kind of a vote result? Is because she's a very effective member of parliament. Pushing through policy on Palestine and standing up for workers,
And
and
it takes a lot to be an effective member of parliament when, with all due respect, the NDP for the last three elections have been the
you know,
fourth party.
well, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there were balance of power situations, but absolutely, she had to fight for the media attention. Yes, she had to fight to get policy approved. I mean, she has shown that she is a highly effective member of parliament, maybe one of the most effective.
And there's a lot to be said about the systemic advantage that she may have as a
Yeah.
result in the leadership election, even with Avi Lewis's momentum, as a result of the large number of NDP members who are Alberta NDP members by virtue of federal
Yes.
and provincial being linked.
Yeah.
Do you,
That's the one place where she is fundraising over Avi Lewis in Alberta.
So, like, do you think that the sheer volume of members in Alberta could affect the ranked ballot in a significant way?
I think that probably will have an impact. Like, I think also Ontario has a very large number of members as well. Um, there's no doubt Heather is going to do very, very well in Alberta, and there are a lot of members there, and that's going to be
Well,
some
that's my
great
next
momentum.
question. Do you think like it? Do you think it might be calling it a bit too quick to say that just because she's an Edmonton MP and they're NDPers in Alberta that they would automatically break her way?
Yeah, and if you look at the fundraising, it's definitely breaking her way in Alberta. And I think that she kind of says the right things for an Alberta audience as well. Obviously, being a representative for so long, that's good. Um, she plays the right notes for, I think, for Albertans. I would expect her to get a lot of support there, without a doubt.
Although
Endorsed by Rachel Notley. I mean, there's a lot going for her over there.
Yeah, although with that Albertan background in mind, do you think she might have more difficulty than say Avi Lewis in regards to breaking away from fossil fuel commitments?
100%. I mean, I think I've heard it through some of her statements, and like I just I can't support anybody who supports oil and gas. That's it for me. That's kind of the deal breaker.
That's fair. I mean, I won't say that's like my only deal breaker. I'm a pretty finicky fella, and I think I've tweeted about more deal breakers than many people have policies.
Oh my gosh.
But like, I'm just perpetually never happy, Norm.
Well, you know where you stand. You know what your values are, and
I
hey, if
stand on an island.
people can't reach your lofty values, well, forget them.
People literally try, like, they crash on the shore trying to get here with their boats. Like, they should just set me adrift on an iceberg. It'll be better for everyone in this country. But overall, how optimistic are you for the future of the NDP? Because I mean, with the 7 seats, there really is nowhere to go but up, and I don't really think you could actually go lower.
I think as you say, there's nowhere to go but up. But the climb may not be very, very quick. It's maybe slow and steady, an increase. Like we're at a place where we are rebooting, if you will. Sometimes reboots you can be in the right place at the right time, a la Mark Carney. But that's more lightning in a bottle
You
than
don't need to
anything.
win it
So
in one, but you do want to see forward momentum and that concrete progress is being made.
yeah, absolutely. And then somebody who can inspire, because a lot of hope was lost in that last election. Speaking personally for myself, I lost a lot of hope. So I really do need a candidate who can light that spark back into me and make me want to, continue to stay involved
You want to feel
with the
good
party.
about being in the NDP again. You want to feel like it's actually a vehicle for accomplishing things and changing the world.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a time where we desperately need hope. Like I was hopeful for 2026 till I looked at my phone on January 3rd and saw Trump invading Venezuela. But,
Don't
we
worry,
need
that
to
won't
find
be the
hope.
last invasion this year.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong.
I
When you
don't
start
want to
on the
be. I
third,
don't want to be right, man. Like,
yeah, that was an
uh,
inauspicious start to the year. So we need somebody who can stir up hope, and I think who can just speak to the masses, who's really effective with media. And like I went to Abby Lewis's, sort of fundraiser over at Lee's Palace, and there were like 600 people there. It was packed to the rafters.
yeah, I've seen like the numbers he's getting at events, and these are pretty respectable for like a leadership contest. It is hard to get people out in this kind of weather for that kind of event.
Especially with the kind of where the NDP find themselves. So
Yeah,
to get that
not
level of
not just for a
excitement is very
leadership,
good.
but for a leadership of a party that a lot of people are slagging and saying is like dead in the ditch. Like
Exactly.
I clearly the reports of the death of the NDP have been prematurely exaggerated.
Yeah, and they called the death of other parties in the past, and we've seen that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So I ultimately don't want a two-party system. I've seen what that looks like in the States. I don't like the way it looks. I want to see other voices, other ideas,
We've
push
seen what
Canada to a better
happens
place.
when no one's there to keep the liberals honest, and it just results in them becoming conservative.
Yeah, they seem to be wheeling a little in that direction right now. So, yep, need a third party, an effective third
Yeah.
party in there.
Now, one smaller thing before we go into our break that I wanted to discuss with you is, as of course, the Ontario Place and Ontario Science Centre stagas
Mhm.
are still dragging on. And notably, in recent news, Toronto had a pretty heavy snowfall. And the Ontario Science Centre, which was closed without because the Ford government claimed the roof could not bear the snow, apparently had its heaviest snowfall ever, and the
Yep.
roof held up perfectly fine. Of course, there's also reports from the engineers that the Ontario government consulted with saying, yes, the roof is fine.
Mhm.
There's routine maintenance to do, but it's fine. And then the Ford government, just lied to the public.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, when Ford was asked about this recently, he insisted that he's not willing to risk a single child's safety. And Norm, I'm heartened to know that Doug Ford cares so much about our children.
I mean, he cares so much about our children that we have dozens of schools with that exact same roof
Yeah, like,
that are still there and have
like
survived the snowfall as well. So that shows you just how much Doug Ford cares in certain situations.
and it's like, obviously, I keep banging the drum on Doug Ford because they're the main people responsible for the mess. But I can't lie and say that I'm not also a little bit cheesed that Mayor Olivia Chow, who stopped fighting on the issue because she
Hmm.
announced to the public like over a
Yep.
year ago, and I've written about this, that she had made a deal with Doug Ford that the city would
Yeah.
take over the Science Center and reopen it and run it themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that is
Still
all
waiting.
completely paused. We are like on some sort of weird pause,
It's not
limbo,
just a
if you will, for the
pause. They
Science
won't
Center.
even acknowledge they said it. Like, I mean,
Wow.
the last time I reached out to Mayor Chow's office, like, they said, we've acknowledged receipt of your question. Our press secretary will get back to you. And then they didn't get back to me. And
Okay.
that's honestly worse than ignore. Like, when you don't want to respond to a
Yeah.
journalist's question, you don't answer. You
Yeah. Just
don't
ignore, I guess.
you don't reply to say we have seen this and an answer will be forthcoming. Like, what that I know I've
We've
joked
received
about
it. Now
this
send
with
the
you
wins
the
back.
last time months ago when you were on the podcast, but it hasn't changed, and that's what makes it stupider.
It's in your question is in limbo, just like the Science Center. Like poor Josh Matlow's having to move motion, saying, "Please keep on the heat and
Yeah,
keep up the landscaping, province."
yeah. This is why I like I worked on Josh Matlow's mayoral in the by-election against Olivia Chow, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
happy I did that because he seems to care more.
Josh cares deeply about the Ontario Science Center and Ontario Place, and I'm so grateful to have him as an ally in those
Uh,
fights.
I know, and like this is just, I'm just not used to the liberal quote unquote candidate on outflanking the NDP one. I
Yeah,
know
and I
they're
feel like as a counselor, Josh Matlow is able to, just be completely nonpartisan, and he works effectively with anybody. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for
When
how
I
much
when
he
I say
cares.
liberal and NDP, there are folks like, yes, of course, in Ontario municipal politics, there's no parties, but from
Mhm.
personal experience, the people there was a lot of NDP organizers who went behind Olivia Chow's campaign. There were a lot of left-wing liberals who went behind Josh Matlow's
Yeah,
campaign. The right-wing liberals, on the other hand, went behind Anna Bayau's campaign.
yeah,
Conservatives, they failed to stop Olivia Chow because
yeah.
they went to four different people.
Yeah, they really couldn't unite around a candidate, could they?
No, it's just like so. At this point, I sort of blame both Doug Ford and Olivia Chow, and for my 3-year-old and newborn like siblings, I would like them to go to the museum that I went to like literally on like a monthly or almost
Mhm.
bi-weekly basis. Like when I was a kid, like and my mom had to figure out shit to do with me and my sister.
Yeah.
Like we had a membership at the science center. She would just be
Mhm.
like, okay, we're going to the science center. And she would knew we'd be like running around occupying ourselves with things and learning things while having fun. Like,
Absolutely. And I had family from New York who did not want to come to downtown Toronto. Like they didn't want to drive down here. It's like, let's all go to the Science Center because it's out of the core. It's easy for you to park there and let's meet there. Like, you need to have some sort of kind of options around the city so you're not jamming everybody down the lakeshore.
and like for all the people in Toronto like to mock other places in this country, I was just in Calgary and they have a great science center. Like their science center, they have a robot arm you can ride that simulates being on a roller coaster. Like because they
Wow.
not just do they have a science center, they actually care about keeping it funded and updated. Like in
Lovely.
Sudbury in Northern Ontario, they have Science North. They have a science like there's
Yep.
Vancouver has a science center I've been to, and
Mhm.
it could use a bit of some renovations, but it's also still a great place. Like Toronto is so below the national average because
Absolutely.
we just stopped giving a shit about museums, and museums are like one of the primary things a city can have to do.
Yes. Yeah, it's a place of exchanging ideas and getting inspired. Like this is part of that kind of creative class kind of, thinking for cities. We need these places. As a city that wants to grow and aspires to be more and do more and accomplish more, we need these
Doesn't mean
places
I
of
don't have
creative
some thoughts on
energy.
how museums operate. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
the Royal Ontario Museum, for one, there's many artifacts there, which, if we're being fully honest, do not belong to them, but were taken during the colonial period.
Oh.
Like, not just that museum, but there are tons of.
Mhm.
Look at the British Museum.
Oh
Like,
dear.
ever
Yeah.
wonder why the Parthenon marbles aren't at the Parthenon?
Ah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's like, all these marbles from Greece. Why aren't they in Greece?
Yeah, it'd be nice just to trade everything back. I mean, even the Vatican could bring themselves to returning First Nations artifacts that they wrongly
Well,
took.
it's like there are museums that literally have like the skulls and bones of dead
It's
indigenous people that they won't
uh,
give back so they can be put to rest.
that
I've
is
seen it on
awful,
John Oliver where they
unacceptable.
wouldn't give it back, but they let them come to the museum
Oh,
to visit the bones, and
ugh.
I'm like, you are going to the deepest circle of hell, and if there isn't a hell, I'm going to create one.
Yeah, I think hell was built for people like that.
Yeah, so,
Amen.
but museums are good. Like it's good to have
Yes,
places people can go to learn about society and the world around them. Uh, just
and
don't
science is
run
we're
them like
pushing
that.
STEM on our
Yeah,
kids. Like
yeah,
we have no place of science learning right
yeah,
now. Like
yeah.
they're talking about opening a cent. Right now we have Spirit of Halloween science centers at the Harborfront Center in Sherway,
Like,
which they're a sad joke,
I
honestly, a
haven't
sad,
even
sad joke.
bothered going because I know I'll just cry if I do.
It's basically the disappointment center that
Yeah,
you're going to
the
be going to. So,
disappointment center. The Jake Landau is getting tired. Fun time amusement park.
yeah,
Uh,
I mean, hey, name it what you want, just open it.
yeah,
Name it
and
the Mark Garneau Science Center. I've been kicking
I've
that
made
idea
this
around.
point before, but like I made it again on Twitter recently. Like the thing I hate the most about the Science Center debacle, you are stealing a museum from a neighborhood of poor immigrant children
Oh,
and
yes.
sending it downtown where all the rich white yuppies live.
Amen. I had a friend who grew up in Flemington Park, and that gave her the science education that she needed to
Right.
go on to a very great career that she's in now.
Thorncliffe is literally the poorest neighborhood in the
Yeah.
entire city. They
And
deserve
Doug
their
Ford
fucking
disses it, calling
museum.
it a sleepy place.
Not
I
they
mean, just
deserve two museums.
yes.
They not just should we reopen the science center, we should be building another museum on the parking lot so they can have even more.
Yeah, we have the Aga Khan with the Science Center. You start building a cultural corridor
I
for
forgot
the
about the
folks at
Aga
Thorncliffe.
Khan. They need three museums.
Yes. They deserve the best.
Yeah, more
They're
museums.
better than a sleepy neighborhood, as Doug Ford calls them.
Yeah, and it's like gonna be right on the interchange of the Ontario line, line 3, and the Eglinton one, line 5. Like it's gonna be.
Yeah,
You and
the
I.
stop was called the Science Center till they changed it. It's so
I
sad.
know, Norm. You and I could go on about this forever, and I'm sure
Amen.
that you'll be on the podcast at least 5 more times over the next year to talk about it again and again.
That makes me excited about 2026, Jake.
I know. But before we do, we're going to have a short break, folks, and then after that, we will be back with our 3 headline topics of the week and our guest, Norm Di Pasquale. See you in a sec. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. Folks, all of my work is available for free with no paywall at jakelandau.ca. But in order to keep writing and recording, I need money, because money is what makes this show go round. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider a paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. And please leave a 5-star rating on the show in your favorite podcast app, be it Apple, Spotify, or a secret third thing. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back from the break with our guest, Norm Di Pasquale, and our 3 headline topics of the week. Our first headline topic from the Globe and Mail, and note, the headline has actually changed since I picked the link, because, of course, in our internet age, headlines for news stories can actually just change rather than staying the same. I hate this, but moving on from that non sequitur.
Yeah,
The new
I agree, that's
headline
not right.
is Smith defends Alberta separatists after David Eby's treason remarks. For context, David Eby is the Premier of British Columbia. Danielle Smith is the Premier of Alberta. And this story is reported at the Globe and Mail by Bill Curry, Ian Bailey, and Matthew Scrice. Now, the story here is obvious. It came out in the news that members of the Albertan separatist movement have been meeting with members of the Trump regime in the United States and have been attempting to secure financial backing for the separatist movement. David Eby, pretty understandably and emotionally as I would be, called this treason. While it may technically not meet the criminal code definition of treason, I kind of think it should.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think but
They met with the highest U.S. State Department officials about this,
yeah,
right?
but Danielle Smith has said that I'm not going to demonize or marginalize a million of my fellow citizens when they've got legitimate grievances. And I'm like, no, you see,
Yeah.
that's the problem, is there's a premier telling all of these, fifth columnists who that they're legitimate, that they're okay to feel this way. And the truth is that, in my opinion, they're not. And
Yeah.
I know normally as a lefty, I'm not in the business of telling people your feelings aren't valid and suck up and deal with it. But no, in this case, it's completely true. You do not get to collaborate with a foreign government in an attempt to fracture the Federation. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
we cannot tolerate intolerance, and we cannot tolerate treason.
credit
There are lines.
to the Quebec separatist movement. They don't do this.
No, like somebody did raise the point that in the 90s, somebody from the separatist movement did meet with, some officials in France, but I think it was more diplomatic
Ira
than.
showed Stephen Gilboa because with a different example. It was in 1969 when Charles de Gaulle was
Mm,
on a state visit to Canada as the president of France. He and During a speech he gave to massive throngs of
mhm,
Quebecois people in Montreal, he shouted "Vive le Québec libre!"
oh,
Obviously, this caused a diplomatic incident. Technically, it's been pointed out to me that Canada didn't have to ask him to leave because he knew he was going to be asked to leave and just went home early by himself.
I'm gonna see myself out now.
Yeah, but like it's just something that remember, France is a semi-presidential republic. Like their
Mm,
legislature and their prime
yes,
minister, who gets confidence from the legislature, did
right,
not agree with Charles de Gaulle at the time on this. There wasn't, and
right,
mind you, there wasn't even an organized separatist movement in Quebec at the time. Nonetheless, I'm
yeah.
sure it certainly encouraged things a little. But
Yeah,
you know,
and there's an American government that has released a doctrine about controlling all of North
yeah,
America, and now you're going down there and you are feeding them.
yeah.
You are feeding red meat to lions down there.
But like the credit I would give Quebec still is that largely their separatist movement, while I disagree with it, is
Mm,
homegrown. It is based
yes,
on legitimate feelings based from Canadians.
100%.
They may not want to be Canadian, but you get my point. Like they may not want to be Canadians anymore, the
Mhm.
people who support separatism in Quebec, but it is their own feelings. It is not the feelings of a foreign government imposed upon them. The whole idea is making
That's right.
choices for themselves, while
Yeah.
the Alberta separatists want to make choices on behalf of other people for the benefit of the United States.
Yeah, and there's very clear meddling going on with the United States with this issue around Alberta separatism, which is really concerning. Like, there was U.S. meddling, I think, in the convoy protests, and we see more U.S. meddling here.
I remember like for at least a year now, ever since Trump won the election, I've been like vocally concerned about the prospect that he will do in Alberta what Russia did in the Donbass. And
Yeah, very clear
like
roadmap.
yeah, like and I there were a lot of liberals especially, and I was still liberal at the time, who like either gently told me I was that I needed to calm down, or more bluntly told me that they thought I was being mentally hysterical and unwell. But now it appears everything I've foretold is exactly true.
Yeah,
An Albertan separatist movement will be used as a wedge by the United States. It doesn't
100%.
matter whether they actually win the referendum, because what will
Mhm.
then happen is the United States will claim Canada interfered in the referendum. And to
Of course.
protect the Albertans from Canada, the United States will move troops in to protect the sovereignty and freedom of the Albertan
Mhm.
people. And
Yeah,
then give it 10 years like the Republic of Texas did after leaving Mexico before joining the United States. They'll be annexed in. They will become a
mhm.
resource colony. They probably won't even be a state. They'll be a territory, and all of that
Yeah,
oil will get extracted down south for the benefit of citizens of the imperial core.
yeah, like a Puerto Rico situation or something. That's what I could see Alberta becoming.
Uh,
You wouldn't want to necessarily add like a Democrat state, which I think pretty well any state in Canada would be a Democrat state.
and you know me, like I know a lot of people don't like to say "I told you so," but I do,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
and it's a little bit arrogant, I'll admit. But everything I warned about is passing exactly as I foretold, and the path does not seem to be ending.
Yeah, and Trump is mad. However, you have to take Trump seriously.
we
You
we
know,
live in a world where people, even the ones who give nice speeches at Davos, and we'll talk about that soon, but they talk a big game about separating from the United States, but we aren't
Mhm.
willing to do it in material terms.
Yeah, I mean, I heard like we're running out of road salt because all the road salt from the salt mine in Goderich is going to the U.S. because it's controlled by a U.S. company.
Right,
I don't know.
which is and that's a national security concern. Like, and people don't think about like basic
Mhm.
infrastructure like road
Yep.
salt as
Yeah.
being part of national security. But it was raised to me on last week's episode when I
Hmm.
was talking with Noah Guerin, a defense analyst,
Hmm.
that the commercial, like the personal automotive industry, is part of national security because those are the same platforms that military equipment is built off of.
Wow,
Like
interesting perspective. Yeah.
those Rochelle armored personnel carriers that we're
Hmm.
sending mostly to Ukraine, which I like, and also sending to
That's
ICE,
good.
which I really
Not
don't
good.
like.
Yeah.
Those are built off the Ford F-550.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know
they're
that.
actually a qualified modifier by Ford for because
Oh,
mind you, they modify a lot of it, but the basic
right.
platform is what they build it on top of.
I see.
So,
Oh
like,
boy.
from a national security perspective, like, when you have that kind of and it makes sense to have a certain parts integration because,
Yeah.
like, there's no need to reinvent the motor.
Yeah, absolutely. And this made perfect sense until this president who said, no, we're just going to win at everything,
And it still
and we're
makes
not sharing.
sense to have those integrated domestically in Canada to
Mm.
have like shared technology. But of course, when other countries do this, we call it dual use and put them on an export ban list.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But back to the main topic here. Like we really do have to reckon with the fact that
Yes.
there is an active fifth columnist movement within Canada attempting to fracture the Federation.
Yeah, we cannot tolerate treason, and you're totally right that the Alberta separatists and the Quebec situation are completely different.
And
Um,
there's also the argument that like, oh, it's technically not legally treason, and I'm like, it should be. Like, why are we not changing the laws to make it illegal for to collaborate with a federal government financial, a foreign government financially on a separatist campaign?
100%. I mean, we have like a bad actor in the South, and now we have to contend with it.
We're
It
already more
sounds like it's
generous than a lot of Western countries in allowing referendums on separation at all. I think it's a
a good point.
pretty fair requirement to say you shouldn't receive any financial or political backing from foreign governments because, for all that the US will crow about interference when they likely lose this referendum, I think there's already going to be interference trying to make them win.
Yeah, and then you have Danielle Smith relaxing rules, like allowing more time, less petitions that are needed to be signed. So, you have a premier who's also kind of feeding these separatists, and
While
the leopard face
pretending
eaters
that,
will
oh,
eat your
like,
face.
oh, I'm not a separatist, I'm just respecting their reasonable concerns. But they're not reasonable concerns.
No.
You flamed this over and over and over because you want to be a governor more than you want to be a premier. And if
Yeah, and when she says a million people, like I understand there's probably some people in Alberta who are somewhat frustrated with their situation via Canada, but they are not. There's not. I can't believe there's a
when
million
she
Albertans who
talks
want out.
about a million people, it reminds me
Yeah.
of when the Chinese government they have a line that they'll use in political communications. When a foreign government does something that upsets
Mhm.
them, they'll say their actions are hurting the feelings of 1.3 billion Chinese people.
Right.
The funniest part is actually as the population of China's increased, they've like it used to be like 1.1 billion, but as they keep
Mhm.
growing, they
Mhm.
changed the rhetoric so that it's an
To
updated
match the population.
population number. A similar one is so in a Cold War era, there was a joke about China's final warning because the U.S. China would keep giving U.S. jets a warning to leave the airspace of Taiwan in the 50s, and the Soviets could hear this on their radios. I forgot whether it was like shortwave or medium wave.
Amazing.
So in the Soviet Union, they all started making fun of communist China and not
Mm.
there were Taiwan, just to be clear, and saying that China's final warning, like that they were giving like their 1,030th Chinese final warning.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like Soviet humor. It's very dry, like mine.
Yeah, I like it as well.
Moving on to our next topic of the day, from the National Post, which is not a common source for me to cite, but for
Yeah.
once I've agreed with them. Uh, from John Iveson, sources say Ottawa considering Swedish jets over F-35s for half of fleet. All the signs
Mhm.
point to Ottawa buying fewer than half the number of F-35s it said it would, and Carney's speech in Davos explains why. So there initially, Canada was planning to buy about 88
Hmm.
F-35s.
Hmm.
Uh, this was in a time when we didn't think the United States would try and cut off access to spare parts or such,
Yeah,
because they're
you could have called
threatening
them a
to.
friend at the time, I guess.
Yeah, they weren't exactly threatening to take over Alberta.
Hmm.
But we've already paid for 16, so whether or not we gave them the money, we may as well
Yeah.
take the delivery. Uh,
Yep.
eh, but the idea is that in total, we would run about 40 F-35, so we'd buy a couple dozen more, but then we'd run them in a mixed fleet with about 80 Saab Gripens, the Swedish plane,
Yeah.
the Gripen E, and I've talked about this with that same defense analyst, Noah Guerin, on a previous
Hmm.
appearance of his. The Gripen is not as capable, obviously, as the F thirty
Hmm.
five. It's does not have the same stealth capabilities that reduce the radar cross section, and
Right.
obviously, seeing your enemy before they see you is a pretty
Hmm.
important part of aerial combat.
Yes.
Uh,
Right.
but there is a pretty valid case to be made for running a mixed fleet. For one,
Hmm.
we do not need stealth in many of our deployments because in those cases, the purpose is deterrence, and you want them
Right.
to see your planes.
Ah,
Uh,
that's a good
but
point.
in addition, there's the fact that the Gripen is actually much more reliable under winter weather than the F-35.
Hmm.
Uh, as much as like the F-35 may technically be more impressive in
Hmm.
terms of day-to-day operations, the Gripen is its uptime is somewhere in the 80%, which is pretty good. That's like
Yeah.
time it's not in like the hangar being like repaired or refit. Meanwhile, the F-35, if I remember, it's somewhere in the 30s. Like it's really not good.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh,
So
that's horrible.
no,
Can you imagine signing up for a service with 30% uptime?
no, like that's the
Like,
thing.
no
Yeah, yeah,
thanks.
it might be a bit better than that, but the thing we'd have it's less than 50% at least,
Ugh.
and like you
Oh,
have to consider
jeez.
like if we have 16 F-35s that we're about to get for sure, you have to
Mhm.
consider now that only 8 of them or less may actually be able to fly at any given time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a stark
with a
stat.
Gripen, the number's a lot better. And the final problem we have, Norm, is obviously that there's a lot of problems with the F-35 maintaining it with the United States in control. For one,
100%.
spare parts come through the United States, and the
Hmm.
U.S. military gets first dibs on spare parts. So
Right.
if they decide they need them more than your country does, tough shit. Uh,
And there's some scary note that they might be able to remotely control these planes.
That technically isn't confirmed, but I probably wouldn't be surprised. The thing that
Mm.
does effectively act as a so-called kill switch is something called the
Mm.
mission data file. Before
Mm.
flying, it needs to be loaded with the mission data file, an electronic
Right.
database
Right.
that tells them here's where you're flying. This is what you're
Right.
doing. These are
Yeah.
it's an encrypted file that essentially you need the United States to generate for you.
Ah, okay. There you go.
So,
There's the rub.
yeah, so do we really want planes that we need the United States to create the mission layout for us before we can fly them? Anywhere,
Not right
at
now.
any time?
Not right
Like,
now. Especially with them
do you
threatening
think
our Arctic
Denmark,
sovereignty. Nope.
do you, how much luck do you think Denmark is having putting mission data files on their planes when the US comes to try and take Greenland?
Yeah, and the Danish president has remarked that they really regret getting those F-35s on
Yeah,
Twitter just recently.
this would be why.
Yeah.
And as John Ivison writes in his column, not that I expect to hear this much in the National Post, the Canadian forces are preparing military models to respond to a hypothetical U.S. invasion because it is no longer unthinkable.
Yeah, no, no, it's quite thinkable, and we should
Yeah,
think about it.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And personally, while the Gripen may be less capable, it's more capable than a plane you can't fly.
yeah, and a couple other points, like I've thought about shorter runways with my island airport advocacy. So
That is
the
a good
Griffins are,
point that I missed. They can
yeah,
take
they're
off and
capable
land
of
on
landing.
shorter runways, which is very useful in
Absolutely,
a winter environment.
yeah, and like in northern Canada, the runways are so short that the F-35s couldn't land there. There's that to consider Canada's unique terrain, and we are much stricter on like de-icing protocols, and that's why those Gulf Stream planes can't come up here.
Yeah, because the only
We have
thing
to think of
worse
that colder
than like
environment.
an extremely expensive fighter jet is one that falls out of the sky because of ice buildup.
Hey, I mean,
Imagine
you
going
sure
to
don't want
that
that to be
court
the reason.
martial.
That's some expensive ice.
Yeah, like uh, uh, in general, I'm not sure if I really have much more to say on this one. It's like obviously I understand.
Probably if the U.S. had just shut up,
Yeah,
like about
like,
the F-35 situation with Canada, we may not have been here. But they just can't help themselves talking about the remote kill switch and threatening us, with this jet and threatening us otherwise. And buying the Gripen from Sweden allows us to start diversifying trade. Sweden will reciprocate and build a factory here to help us build those jets. So we have to expand to our those middle powers, as Carney put it.
and what's his name? The ambassador from the Yankee regime to Canada,
Hoekstra,
Hoekstra.
Hoekstra.
Didn't he essentially give a veiled threat that if we didn't buy
Yeah,
the F-35s, they would send them here, whether we like it or not?
over airspace. He
Yeah,
did. He totally said that, and just keeps driving us further and further away. That guy. That's one guy who really needs to stop talking.
he's a
He
man
doesn't do
who
diplomacy.
acts like he knows that public opinion won't matter, and that
Yeah.
scares me because, like, we all mock him here,
Yes,
but
he's to be mocked.
he knows something we don't clearly because he's not afraid of anything we're saying about him.
Well, it's the Trump I could shoot someone in the street thing, but if you're trying to sell to Canada, Canada popular opinion matters, and
Well,
and
I
I
don't
think
know
that
if
matters
it.
here.
I don't know if Canada's popular opinion does matter because unfortunately the Department of Defense and the Canadian military seem pretty ideologically captured by people who think we should go all in on the Americans, all in on the F-35, and
Right.
the senior members of the military are like pitching a fit that we're saying, hey, we might need to hedge geopolitical risk because I sort of have a fear that the Canadian military at this point, many of them see themselves as an expeditionary force of the U.S. rather than our military.
Yeah, I mean, a culture change there is necessary. That might involve having to change some leaders, but in a sense, we've kind of been the little brother, as China put it, to the U.S. Over some time, and probably militarily as well. So, a culture change like that will take time and possibly changing some leadership as well.
Mm. It's just, do you think there's my? It just doesn't seem like there's any point at which there will be consequences, though. Like he can make these like blatant threats to our
Oh,
nation, and
mhm.
he isn't summoned by the Canadian government, let alone expelled. Like I just saw recently, like South Africa just severely disciplined the Israeli ambassador to their country because in
Oh,
South Africa, when you break the diplomatic norms, your host country will say, "Hey, do you understand you're a fucking guest here?"
right. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And South Africa is very brave.
Yeah, it's for all these countries in the global south that we denigrate. They have so much more backbone than we do. Like
100%.
I have so much more respect for them because they seem to be places that I like. Don't get me wrong. Like I know no country is perfect, but they understand that they cannot do nothing. That they
Yeah,
I mean they've never been complicit in the system because it never benefited them.
yeah.
Like we have a bit of self reflection to do here in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, outside of not going into Iraq, with Canada did, I was frustrated by how in lockstep we have been with the U.S. up to Trump. It's not like we don't have
We didn't
original
go to
thoughts up here.
Iraq, but we went to Afghanistan, and I would say
We sure did.
that was a mistake.
Huge mistake.
Like like when it comes to the United States mocking all of the other people who went to Afghanistan and died,
Quote
like
unquote baby
I at
steps.
a certain point, I'm like, honestly, it's on you for thinking that the Yankees would respect you for helping them.
I mean, even
No,
Rod Stewart called Trump out to the carpet after that, after
I,
denigrating the soldiers that went to Afghanistan.
I know it's just like, listen, I get why people went, like I get why countries were willing to go, but
Yeah,
like
I guess it was a NATO
even
thing.
even then it should have been clear to people that the United States would never do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack Layton was trying to, was a voice that was trying to not get Canada involved in Afghanistan. I remember way back.
Wouldn't it be great if we had listened to those people?
Would have been great.
Yeah.
Unnecessary loss of life. Very sad.
Well, it's okay
Nations we
because
lost
those
there.
at least those 20 years didn't result in the Taliban coming back and nothing happening other than people dying needlessly.
Absolutely. We're right back in the same spot. No one can control Afghanistan. It's the
Yeah.
kind of foreign policy lesson there. No outsiders.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, in more fun and non-depressing news stories for you guys, for a final local story of the week from the Toronto Star, reported by Sadine Mohsen. Humiliating. Quote. This father was kicked out of the Toronto Eden Centre's nursing room, and he and his wife say the mall's policy is unfair. Moana and David Sangio described their experience as they tried to feed their 6-week-old son in a mall. A 6-week-old, not 6-year-old. That might be a bit too old for breastfeeding.
Right. Good
uh,
catch.
but they've launched a human rights complaint with the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. The issue here is very simple. Moana and David, they went into the nursing room in the Toronto Eden Center because they needed to nurse their 6-week-old kid. Why was the husband going in with her? Very simply, because she doesn't have 3 hands. She was doing her
Right.
pumping, and then while she
Yeah.
was pumping, the husband was feeding from a bottle that had already been pumped. It's teamwork. It's how parenting is supposed to work.
100%. Team effort.
I think this is great.
Mm,
This is what men are supposed to do. They're supposed to be
yes.
active and equally involved parents. They're not supposed to leave their wives to do all the childcare by themselves.
That's right.
That's what we call a dick move and also a cause for
Yes.
divorce.
Yeah, kids give you so much more than you give them. I've
Yeah.
learned that as a father.
Now, security came and got mad, and they're like, males cannot be in here.
Hmm.
And the problem they had at the Eden Center, as compared to other malls, which are also owned by Cadillac Fairview and other
Right.
malls in general,
Hmm.
is at most places they will have two kinds of feeding room. They will
Yes.
have booths that are for the mom and the kid only, and they will have booths
Hmm.
that also include the wider family. And this is because
Yeah.
both kinds of families need that. Like this
Yep.
family obviously needed the husband in there with her to help. They also had a 4-year-old son in addition, who like they didn't want to just leave outside the booth unattended.
Right.
But
Yeah.
also there are women who wear hijabs who, for the sake of modesty, who I assume probably don't want a man they don't know seeing their boobs.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not to put it too
Breastfeeding,
bluntly, but
it shouldn't be a taboo thing. It's quite natural.
yeah,
Sometimes you see folks, you see breastfeeding taking place, let's say in a food court, and that's fine. If that
yeah.
person is comfortable, it's a natural thing, and there shouldn't be a taboo there.
But if
But
they're not comfortable doing it with
yeah,
the entire world staring at them, then
yep,
yes, god damn it, they should have like a booth. And
yes,
so
they should have privacy.
and the problem here is very clearly that the Eden Center did not have facilities to accommodate this mother and her family's needs.
Yeah, and this is obviously very poorly handled.
Yeah.
Like security treating this guy like a criminal or a thief or
The one
something.
thing I will give is that it was a shared room, so there were two other mothers from
Yeah.
other families in there, and the family, the Sangios, say that they asked if it would be okay if he was in there, and yes, they did say okay, but I also can understand how women may feel pressured in that situation to say
Yes.
so.
They may not have been fully comfortable.
Yeah,
100%.
this,
Yeah.
but the solution here is pretty clear, Norm.
Yeah.
You have like it's what they do at the other malls the same property owner owns. Like you have ones for families and then ones for just the mom and the kid. Like
Yeah, and being a security guard at the Eden Center, if I was in that person's shoes, I would find a solution for that family that did not involve kicking that man out. You
yeah.
find them another room.
Well,
Maybe
also
it's you
like
clear out a break room
kicking
or
the door
something.
open and then exposing all the women
Oh,
breastfeeding in there. Like
yeah.
it was not well handled. But like for example, Yorkdale, owned by the same property management firm,
Yeah.
Cadillac Fairview, their spokesperson told the Star for this article that their center has two all-gender nursing lounges and three mothers-only nursing lounges.
And why doesn't the Eden Center have this? It's the same people who own the malls.
It's not
I
like the
don't get
Eden
the
Center isn't
inconsistency.
popular and doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, but like
Yeah, like Yorkdale maybe is like at a different level, but Eden Center is busy. I mean,
I don't know. I think Eden Center might get more foot traffic than Yorkdale. It's close at least because of like how good the placement
yeah,
for the Eden Center is in downtown
yes,
and on public transit and the path. Like the
yeah,
Yorkdale gets traffic in spite of their location.
yeah. Well put. It's off the highway, which isn't bad for those folks who
They
drive.
have a subway station. That's technically more than you could expect of them. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but Norm, I think the most notable part of this story here was actually what their 4-year-old son said.
Hmm.
And I found it pretty remarkable just because, I mean, obviously kids are pretty innocent, but I
Yeah,
think it's that
absolutely.
innocence that let him kind of cut to the core of the matter here more than you or I have. He
Hmm.
was like he like for days like that kid has still been talking about how he was scared because of the security
Oh,
guards, but
yeah.
like that kid said, like the 4-year-old, I wanted to tell them my little baby brother is also a man.
Right.
Like that baby is also a male. Like
What
the
is
security may or may not be aware. And I do think
kids
we
always
can
have the best perspective.
yeah,
Oh my
I do
goodness.
think perhaps we can go a bit too far on the single sex segregation thing. I mean,
Yes.
look at Britain right now, where like TERFs are trying to say that trans women shouldn't be allowed in the same ponds as cisgender women. And I'm like, thank you for reinventing American segregation, but
Yes.
on gender instead of race.
Exactly. Like, look at the bathroom in your home. Does
Yeah,
it have a man or woman picture
no,
on
I
it? We
when I
need to
went
get over
to
this.
U of T in downtown Toronto, all of the bathrooms were had been renovated to be gender neutral. Like so,
That's yeah, the way it should be.
I actually just got used to just walking in without
Yep.
looking. And
Yep.
then I was at a liberal event years ago at one of those U of T buildings. So I just walk into the washroom without looking. And then
Yep.
after I'm done in the stall, I walk out and I see I'm surrounded by entirely women. And this is how I find out this was the one building at U of T they hadn't changed yet.
And then you get
Like
the oh my god.
they all got it, and we all laughed, and there was no trouble out of that. They all could tell pretty clearly, like when I opened the door, and I was
Right.
like, "Oh fuck!" But like it kind of says, like we can create more innocent, more egalitarian societies if we don't raise our kids to think of natural body parts as unclean or something that needs to be hidden. But also, I do
100%.
respect that some women do need their privacy when doing this. I respect some women need their family with them when doing this. I would
Hmm.
just, Norm, wouldn't it be great if we had a world that made parenting easier instead of harder?
Yes, yeah, that's for sure. And as kids go through their own identities, not having to wrestle with these gendered, structures that we face, around bathrooms and everything else.
Yeah, because like people may not really think about it, but there are people who don't identify as men who breastfeed and have
Right.
uteruses. I know
Yep.
some people say, "Oh, that's not legitimate," and what I would tell those bigots is "fuck off." But
Well said.
yeah, like you can be a man and breastfeed. You can be a
Yep.
cisgender man and breastfeed. Don't ask
Yep.
what hormone mess makes that happen, but yes, there are cisgender men who lactate, and
Yeah.
it's an
People who
it
breastfeed.
yeah, like it happens. Like we don't need to split hairs about it. Like just
No,
let people take care of their kids, man.
totally. Let people be people and the people
Man
they
in
want to
a
be.
non gendered cool dudeish way. Uh, well, hopefully, we will live in a world where parents aren't being punished for having children eventually. But until that time, Norm, it has been a pleasure to have you on the program as always. We'll hopefully have you back on again soon. Perhaps after the NDP leadership race concludes, we'll be seeing
Yeah,
how things are going on that neck of the political woods. But thank you
sounds
again. It
great.
has been great to have you on.
Always an absolute pleasure, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you. Norm Di Pasquale, everybody. And that'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks once again to Norm for joining the program, and we will have another great episode for you next week, back hopefully on the normal Sunday schedule. So we appreciate you joining us for this Saturday episode, and we hope we will see you next week, folks. Have a good night. This is the end of the show. Bye.